It's not necessarily fun to question things we've always considered normal. It's not nice to discover that many of our beliefs, preferences, assumptions are not our own. It's normal to prefer certainty, familiarity, and the confidence of thinking that we arrived at our views independently. But awareness often begins with this uncomfortable realization. Not everything you think, value, admire, or aspire to was chosen by you. Some of it came from your family, some of it came from school, some came from religion, and a lot of it also came from colonialism and exposure to Western society. Here's something I've been observing a lot on social media, and since social media reflects real life, let's assume it's happening. Many of us Africans are having this collective discomfort of feeling disconnected from ourselves. We are becoming too aware that we have inherited versions of success, beauty, intelligence, sophistication that were created somewhere else and pushed onto us. We know something feels off, something has been feeling off, but we are now finding the words for it. Before anything can change, you first have to notice what shapes you. One of the most powerful influences on our identity is media. Most people underestimate media and its influence. We think we're just being entertained, we're just watching a movie, just watching a show, just scrolling on social media, just listening to music. But media subconsciously teaches you what to admire, what to desire, what to fear, and what to aspire to become. Think about the stories we all watched growing up. Who were the heroes? What did the heroes look like? Who were the geniuses? Who were the explorers? Who were the innovators? The love interests, the successful people. Who was at the center of the story? For many of us, if we didn't grow up watching African movies, then the answer is clear. Those people never looked like us. In other movies, in other shows, the world was often presented through someone else's perspective, someone else's culture, someone else's experience. Over time, that matters because us humans are shaped by repetition. If someone else is always the main character, eventually you're gonna see yourself as a supporting character, never the main one. If entire industries always present a certain group of people as the standard, then now everyone else wants to adopt to that standard. Media consumption is not neutral. The stories we consume help shape the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. And I'll do a dedicated video about media consumption, so watch this space for that. The next step of awareness is realizing that most of our deep beliefs were inherited before we could even question them. Most of us did not arrive to our beliefs through independent thought. Most of our ideas around morality, success, family, education, relationships, religion, respectability, the ideals around these topics were handed to us by the environment where we were born and where we grew up in. This is not necessarily a bad thing because every generation passes down knowledge to the next. The problem comes when, as an individual, you never stop to examine what you inherited. We accept beliefs just because they're familiar. We never question if they're true. We basically mistake tradition for truth and repetition for evidence. Awareness begins when you start asking questions. Why do I believe this? Who taught me this? Why is this considered modern and this is considered backwards? Why do certain lifestyles receive more admiration and other lifestyles are judged and mocked? Decolonizing your mind forces you to question what you inherited so that you can decide for yourself what deserves to stay in your mind and what needs to be challenged and unlearned. Auditing preferences. This is a very important exercise, if not the most important. That's where you really start to free yourself. Most people never think about why they like what they like. We just assume that our preferences are natural. But no, 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 no. Preferences do not emerge in a vacuum. They come from family, culture, environment, education, advertisement, and media, of course. Media is the biggest instrument to brainwash anyone about anything. So every preference has a reason behind it. Why do you find certain features attractive? Why do you think certain accents are more desirable and sound more intelligent than others? Why do certain names sound sophisticated while others don't? Why do some foods feel prestigious while other foods feel embarrassing? Why do you dream of living in certain places? Why do you associate success with particular lifestyles? Why do you dress the way you do? Why do you admire the people you admire? And listen, do not shame yourself for the answers. The goal is awareness, right? This is an exercise. We're also not going to reject everything that doesn't come from our culture. Again, that's not realistic. What we have to do is understand where our preferences come from. Because after that, you can make more conscious choices. You can be more conscious of your preferences. There's a huge difference between loving something because you genuinely love it and loving something because you were conditioned and brainwashed into loving it. Cultures have always spread from one place to another. Human beings have always borrowed ideas. That exchange is natural. What you have to do, what I expect from you, is that you try to correct the obvious imbalance. For generations, us Africans have been encouraged to consume other cultures, watch telenovelas from other countries and soap operas from other countries, assimilate other cultures, copy other cultures. So we consume them, we admire them, we imitate other cultures, and we measure ourselves on the standards of other cultures. Meanwhile, very few other cultures are consuming African culture, admiring African culture, watching Nigerian movies. I doubt. I don't think most of those people are watching Nollywood to try to understand and have a peek on how Africans live life. I doubt. It's always the other way around. We are the ones who need to be brainwashed into admiring other cultures. And by virtue of that, we give much less attention and priority into admiring our own culture. That imbalance creates insecurity. It creates a feeling that we are never enough. As Africans, many of us feel like we're not enough. So for me, the goal of decolonizing our minds, decolonizing our lives, is so that we can become more of ourselves. Become conscious of what shaped you, understand where your beliefs come from, recognize what influenced your preferences, and then engage in the world from a place of confidence, not insecurity. Because African, you are enough. I'm here to tell you, you are enough. I am enough. Awareness is uncomfortable because it forces us to confront things that we don't want to confront, right? It would be much easier to just put our hand in the sand and pretend life's good. But when you go out there and you deal with prejudice because you're African, because you're Black, that's when you're suddenly like, oh my God, I can't take this anymore, right? So let's clean up the house. Awareness is where that liberation starts. Once you become aware of what influences you, you have the ability to choose. You stop living on autopilot. You stop assuming that everything that's familiar is automatically yours. And that for me is where decolonizing your mind and decolonizing your life begins, with the simple willingness of asking yourself the difficult questions and sit with the uncomfortable answers. Happy start. See you soon.